the fear of resumption of school fees week is the beginning of wisdom. Like you call one parent, or especially fathers, and then even when you say hi, the next day they say, oh please, it's school fees week. Okay, so now what is it that school heads or school proprietors do, or how much do they charge them that it makes, like, whenever you hear school fees week, like it begins to ring a bell in your ear?
Can I? Now I've been put on the spot. The truth about it is, like, people will part with their money when they're getting value. So regardless of the cost, we all know how sometimes we put money together to get a luxury item. You want it, and you will do everything you need. Likewise, children, they're critical, they're important. Depending on the school your child goes to. I believe, and I'm happy that you mentioned fathers, I believe that parents should get involved. Ask questions. Are you sure this school is meeting the needs? Because, see, the value you ascribe to something is a function of what you can get from it. People will, and you see that panic, that school fee is a knee-jerk reaction. Money.
Hello and welcome to The Conversation. Now let's start our quote from Malala Yousafzai, a Pakistani activist for female education and the 2014 Nobel Peace Prize laureate. She once said, "Let us remember, one book, one pen, one child, and one teacher can change the world." I agree. Our next quote is from Nelson Mandela, South African anti-apartheid activist who served as the first president of South Africa from 1994 to 1999. He was the country's first black head of state and the first elected in a fully representative democratic election. He once said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." Absolutely spot on. Now let's see how all of this could relate to what we'll be discussing today. Very warm greetings and welcome to The Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Of course, I am Annabel Oji. Now, primary and secondary schools in the Federal Capital Territory are set for resumption following intensive clearing operations by the military on criminal hideouts. Kaftan TV reports that the schools were hurriedly closed by the FCT administration towards the end of the last session due to series of attacks on the FCT communities by bandits. The schools were closed on July 27 as against July 30th in the 2021-2022 calendar. Announcing the closure of the schools, the FCT Education Secretariat directed school management to end school activities and asked the parents to pick up their words immediately. Some of the schools hurriedly finished their third term examinations by asking students to write exams at night to meet the deadline. So, the official opening date for the third term 2022-2023 academic activities for both boarding and day students in public and private elementary and secondary schools has been set that's on Monday, September 12th, 2022. The FCT Minister, Malam Mohammed Musa Bello, who gave the instructions during a stakeholders conference in Abuja, also said that all boarding schools would resume one day earlier, that's on Sunday, 11th September 2022. And it was learned that the school resumption came with mixed feelings of both excitement and anxiety by parents and children.
National Day to Protect Education from Attack. This year's commemoration saw students from different schools raising their voices on the need to end outrageous number of out-of-school children.
In our differences, put aside personal interest. I did not make references. What we need is action. We have had enough of these conferences.
Where is the brutality of the government? We look for it, not one that makes policy. And afterwards, whosoever chooses to disrupt our peace.
Speaking at the commemoration of the 2022 International Day to Protect Education from Attack celebration today in Abuja, the Minister of Education, Adamu, said plans are underway for the launch and dissemination of the developed Safe School Declaration document to the grassroots.
Fortunately, all over the world, education has been under threat. The incessant attacks on the country's education system that we see in forms of kidnapping, abduction, banditry, increased insurgents, and general insecurity, as has been mentioned, has led to increasing the number of out-of-school children in the country. And we know the higher the number of out-of-school children you have, the more liable you are to have more insecurity in your country.
Our guest on the show today is the beautiful Mrs. Oluwatosin Oladipo. She is the head of schools at Safehands School, and we'll be talking about school resumption. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great. All right, now let's start. I'm going to start by asking you a personal question, so that we start with that way we can break the ice. Now, for you, why education? Why teaching? Why not become a doctor, a broadcast journalist, or something? Because I've heard a lot of parents say, I can't wait for school to resume so I can just bundle my child or my children back to school or back to their teachers. Because according to them, they say, I can't deal. So how come you can deal and decide to go into teaching?
That's an interesting question. I actually didn't start off as a teacher.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I worked in the corporate world for 10 years.
Okay.
And changed careers somewhere along the line. And it's a very interesting scenario. I remember clearly it was the second year I was running the executive MBA at Lagos Business School. And we were doing some project, and and it was a project on education. And just to give a background information, I've always taught in Sunday school. With working in the corporate world, I help my friends administratively, finance, things in helping them to set up their schools. So,
Okay.
Like I said, just during that MBA, I just thought, why not? If I'm doing this by this side, why not just do it full time? Everyone thought I was crazy. I resigned from my job. In fact, I took a year off just to settle in and then ease myself into the system. I did some courses, some trainings in education,
Okay.
and I haven't looked back since.
And it's been an interesting one for you, I guess.
Extremely. I love what I do, so it's so I mean, back to your question, why not education?
I like. All right, so what are the activities that you have in place for the first day or the first week of resumption in school, and why? Okay, I'm going to ask you two questions, and I'd like you to unbundle them in one breath. Now, that's one on the side, and then second is, why do children avoid going to school on the first day or the first week of resumption, and if you have so many interesting activities?
Okay, so I'll go to the first question. What do we have in store? Our school starts the Friday before the real day, where we have something called a back to school night. We have our returning parents, our prospective parents, and just people that are curious to know who we are as a school come in. We share the strategy for the year. We share the vision for the year. We go through housekeeping rules because we're big on that. And then we have a general meeting, first and foremost, meeting everybody, greeting everyone, an opportunity for parents to network. Then they leave and go into the classrooms. That's where that's where everything happens, the nitty-gritty of what to expect for the year. Teachers would run you through what the milestones will be, because we've come to realize that many times parents are in the dark as to what the children are doing. Most times they come in maybe during half term, during open day, or what we do at our school, student-led conference. That's when you hear, oh, Shade is doing this, oh, Kemi is doing that, oh, Bob is doing that. So if we keep you updated, if we give you information on milestones, what to expect for the year, what to do when XYZ, everybody is on the same page, because trust me, when it comes to schools, home school partnership is critical for us. We are at Safehands Schools, we are big on relationships. We do our bit, the parents do their bit, and like I said, at our school we do what we call a student-led conference. So when you have the typical half term where parents come to get feedback on what their children have done for the year, the role is taken on by the child, who's able to run you through, this is what I have done, this is where I'm struggling. And usually when they come into school, and I'm like literally going into your second question, why children don't like coming into school, most schools go straight into core academics on the first day. That's so wrong. Because the truth, yes, it is. Because the truth is, children respond in an environment that is enabling, an environment that they think, I can trust this person. The easiest way to trust is to let them say that we are here together. We have something to achieve. In fact, the first day is usually fun day. If you check our pages, check our pictures, everybody's high-fiving, everybody's smiling, hugging their friends. You get into school, you get into class, the very first thing is, this is our class. It's not my class, it's our class. Depending on the age of the children, they come up with class rules, social contracts. So you do not hear that Miss Kemi said, if you make noise, this is what happens. No, you would hear that, Bob, you did this. Remember when we agreed as a class that if you drop this, these are the consequences. Well stated on their wall in class with their signatures. And the teacher sits back, because the truth about it is that a school, your classroom, the teacher, the adult in that classroom only facilitates. You stand by the sidelines and you allow the children. But guess what happens? If you do not have rules, abuse is inevitable. All sorts of chaos. Things, it will become chaotic. But you know, when they see that it is our classroom. This is our thing. We've got this. So it's easy. They ease them into it. Get to know yourself. Goal setting happens on that day. What is expected of you. They don't know background, why we have back to school now. We've had one-on-one with your parents. We understand what to expect. So the teacher has some form of idea of what to expect, you know, who this child is. And this is a very tricky one. Children come in with what we assume it's a tabula rasa, and what that means is a blank slate. Yes, I hear that when you were in year 2, you were quite a handful, but you're in year 3 today. I choose to give you a blank slate, and we write, we paint that canvas. It is clear, and it's the full picture at the end of the year. Nothing trumps that. A child likes to know that I can make the best of this year. Miss Kemi says this is my target for the year, and it is clear, and we run. So I mean, if you have those kind of things in place, which child wouldn't want to come to
It's
school?
not like because we started, so now we just hit the ground running with education and
in fact,
academic
before they
work.
even get into the core of the content for the year, it might be midweek or beginning of the next week, because we now do something called, after they've done all the social, and we do this because we want to meet the total development of the child. So emotionally, we've met that need. Socially, they're meeting with their classmates. Intellectually, before we build, we need to test. So there's something called a baseline assessment. Where are you? We understand that you've gone for summer holiday. There's something called a summer slide where every child dips. They forget what they've learned. So they come in and the teacher says, I need to plan. But to plan, let me even know what you know, the core subjects, all the things like that. And they do all of that. So the children are still, okay, this is content that I've done. Like, oh, I've forgotten this. It's fine. The teacher tells us feedback, and then, by the time you ease them into all these things, before you start to introduce what the content for the year, the children they're fine.
They're more relaxed.
And that's the word, more relaxed. Yes.
All right, now, so let's take a detour, because you have the Minister of Education, Adamu. He actually said that the incessant rate of insecurity has exacerbated the number of out-of-school children, especially in Nigeria. And we recall how schools were shut a few weeks ago, especially in Abuja. So are these reports affecting only the public schools, and what are the security measures that, like for the private schools, I'm trying to generally have put in place to forestall any kind of attack on the children, the staff, or the workers of the institution as a whole?
A very tricky yet sensitive topic, When you say safety, people are thinking protection. Before I even answer that, as a school, as an institution, you need to consider physical safety of the child, emotional safety of the child, social safety of the child. Physical safety says how, when the child is physically present in your establishment, how safe, and parents are dropping off their children. What do you put in place? Security is a no-brainer right now. Corporate guards, if you can afford armed guards, we have them. So I speak for my school now. Those are things we've put in place. Drop off and pick up. We do not joke with those things. If you do not present to me a pickup card, even if I know that you are the mom, and you don't have, no, I won't release that child.
Oh, really?
No.
So for all parents?
All parents. And if you cannot peak and somebody is coming to do that in your place, please ensure the person gets, and we have things in place for them. So if a nanny is coming, grandma is coming, pick up slips. It is very, 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 very important. But much more than that, I mean, you put such things in place, then can you accurately tell me that your facility, what's the integrity of the facility? Anything can happen, fire. Because yes, he's saying safety, but safety in all areas, you know, regular fire drills are things we put in place for the children. They know what to expect. If you hear the bell, where do you go? The muster point. Then immediately I'm moving out of that. I'm saying, if I put all of those things in place, is this child, and it's not only the children, it's all stakeholders, children, staff, parents, are they free to talk emotionally? Can they be vulnerable enough with you to share? You know, and I had said earlier that we are very big on the home-school partnership. So sometimes children come and they speak and they trust you enough when they say things to you. So you'll find out in my school, all the floors, all in front of the rooms, there is a suggestion box. Because truth is, not every child can talk. Not every member of your staff may be free, may feel, I mean, I have an open door system, but they might not feel too comfortable saying it. I say, look, if you really think you can't say it to me, drop it there. Everybody knows. I go there, pick up my love letters on Fridays, and I read.
Wow.
But socially as well, social safety for the children. What kind of anti-bullying policies do we have in place? I have a zero tolerance for it. They know.
Now that's another one.
It's zero tolerance. Our school is inclusive, so you have children with special education needs and disability. Children that belong to the special education needs and disability unit. So you can't bat your eyelids. You can't. You know how that non-verbal communication, how you just look, oh, somebody is coming. No, you can't do that. It's inclusive. They're in your classroom. They are part of this system.
Great.
So those things are just in place. But yes, it's critical for schools at this point to put measures in place. You know the kind of families you have in your school. You know what matters to them the most. So yes, we're putting things in place. But I'm also asking them, what do you want to see?
Okay.
You know, when we ask questions, I'm one-on-one with parents, I'm discussing, they're asking. When they raise concerns, I'm quick to address it, because I know how towards the end of last session was for everybody. There was a lot of panic. There was a lot of, it was really scary. So because, I mean, you can have all of this security in place and stuff can still happen.
I agree. All right, now, so there is this popular saying that the fear of resumption of school fees week is the beginning of wisdom. Like, you call one parent, or especially fathers, and then even when you say hi, the next day they say, oh, please, it's school fees week. Okay, so now, what is it that school heads or school proprietors do, or how much do they charge them that it makes, like, whenever you hear school fees week, like, it begins to ring a bell in your ear?
Can I? Now I've been put on the spot. The truth about it is, like, people will part with their money when they're getting value. So regardless of the cost, we all know how sometimes we put money together to get a luxury item. You want it, and you will do everything you need. Likewise, children, they're critical, they're important. Depending on the school your child goes to. I believe, and I'm happy that you mentioned fathers, I believe that parents should get involved. Ask questions. Are you sure this school is meeting the needs? Because, see, the value you ascribe to something is a function of what you can get from it. People will, and you see that panic, that school fee is a knee-jerk reaction. Money. And so sometimes it's just for you to sit back and say, I will pay, I will part with X amount, because I know I get value from that.
Okay.
So if as a school head, I'm unable to convince you as to why you should bring your child, then there's a problem.
So at what point do you do this convincing?
So I mean, I do that when new parents are coming. When people come in for inquiries, you sit down with me. Yes, they see the team, but then they sit down because they say, why Safehands? And my response is, why not? These are the things we put in place. When you pay this is actually what you're paying for. Your ability to be very upfront, open, share. I mean, you look at companies, they're able to say, our services include. And then people can sit back and say, I mean, there's some things that they're not negotiable, regardless of how much it is. I mean, look at diesel and things. You still have to buy it. What will just happen to you is that you just cut back on your costs and expenses. So ability for someone to think to themselves, can I really, is this cost, is it commensurate to the value that I'm getting?
Okay.
If it is, why not? Sometimes as parents, I'm a parent, I have my children in school as well. If I mean, and this thing is affecting everybody except we're lying, is to put things in place to say, this is something that I am not going to negotiate. This is something that I'm not going to compromise. My children must go to school. What do I need to put in place? How do I plan? Ideally, parents shouldn't have this issue if you look at the year and say, I am paying XYZ for first, second, and third term. What do I need to? You shouldn't start crying a week to school resumption if you have a proper financial plan regarding your children's fees and the tuition. Generally learning, because it is what happens with most people is that they're so concerned about tuition that you forget that there are additional costs to your child going to school. You will buy your uniform, your child will feed, and all of those things. Just put a plan in place. Ideally, sit back. End of the third term. What do I need for the next year?
For the next year.
Schools are good. They give you the bill and everything, and you put a plan in place. Nothing should touch that money, and then you'll be fine.
All right. So now let's talk about this standard policy for most private schools. Since schools adopted the British curriculum, the American curriculum, and then some schools even use a blend of both of them, and then with the Nigerian. So how would you actually rate or measure its growth and development, especially in the life and the progress of the children? Is it anywhere close to what you have in advanced countries, even though I hate to mention that word, advanced countries, but is it anywhere, any kind of measure with what you have abroad?
Am I speaking generally for schools?
Generally.
We're not doing too badly, and let me tell you why. Most schools, it's a no-brainer right now to run a hybrid, because we are raising global citizens. So your school might be locally resident in Nigeria, but you must be globally relevant. What's the essence of running a curricula or a hybrid, and your child cannot, a student from your school cannot sit and have a conversation with a child from China? Makes no sense. What is the essence of the curriculum really? Is to ensure children learn. What happens in most schools is that I do not doubt that schools teach, but has that child learned anything? How can you test if a child has learned? Ability to apply skills everywhere. So what happens, what most schools do is, the truth is, if you go through government, it takes time for them to review policy. By the time the revised policy is out, something has changed. So when you see schools are custodians of their children's learning right now. So I'm sitting down and we do that. And benchmarking is not just what we leave to the end of the term, no, or the end of the session, no. It's a continuous process. So my teachers, when they're having planning sessions, for example, they're saying, I taught this last week. What could I have done better? It's literally on the go. What could I have done better? And you put it there and it's working. So it's a working document you have for yourself for the entire year. And then you sit, it's easier because you have a broad outlook as to what I've done for the year by the end of the academic session. So back to that question now, look at children. With this, and I hate to use that word, the jackpot is happening, people leaving, they can fit in. How are they able to fit into those schools if we're not doing something right? Look at people writing international exams. By the time they want to go into college, they're doing the IGCSEs and all. They're getting perfect scores. We're doing something right. Our teachers are getting it right. As long as you do not stay in a silo, as long as you're asking yourself what's happening, why is Finland topping that chart? What is happening? I mean, I like in our school now, I'm intrigued when I look at Asia. They get something right there. The children, you don't want to go into graduate school with somebody from India or somebody from Korea. No, they will top the class, but what are they doing right? So I sit back. I don't like everything about it, but we recently adopted something in our school for year 6. It's called is adopted behind the theory of the cram schools in Korea. I think they do about 8.5 or 9 hours in school every day. When your child finishes from regular schools, they go to something called a cram school, like a test prep school, where they prepare them to go into the Ivy League schools. But when I looked at them, I'm like, why would a child be in school for like 10.5 hours? What are they doing? What can I pick and adopt from here? they get this thing right. The children, there's an element of you learning the core curriculum of the school. There's an element of you learning how to prepare for entrance exams. They're two different things.
Okay.
So, you know, when you put those things in place, ensuring that you're benchmarking internationally, ensuring that you're looking at best practices around the world, we're not doing too badly. Honestly, we're not doing too bad. Even for schools that run core Nigerian curriculum, trust me, we're not doing badly.
Okay, so are we still making use of that 6634?
No, it's 934 now.
Oh,
so yes,
okay.
you go. If you read, they do say to you that there's a 1 year pre-primary.
Okay, yeah.
Right. Then you go straight into basic, which
Okay.
is your year 1 or primary 1 to 6. You do not terminate there. You go straight into GS1, GS2, GS3. At the end of that 9 years,
Then you have your tertiary institution.
then you no, that is actually the end of GS3. Then you move, yes, so 9 goes straight from primary 1,
Ooh.
primary 6, GS1, GS2, GS3. Then you have your SS1, SS2, SS3, and the 4 years.
Oh, really? Interesting.
So it's 934.
Oh, interesting.
It is
All right, now
934.
let's talk about COVID or post-COVID-19. How are you able to rise up to the norm, the new norm now, with all of the disruptions caused by COVID-19 and pandemic, and then a lot of people had to change from the norm to the new norm with regards to digital or virtual or e-learning? Now, so how much have your institution, let's take your institution for example, how much have you been able to help the pupils, the parents, guardians, to help them step up or embrace this new transition and improve on them, especially for the children in the elementary stage? Because we know that a lot of people, I find it very difficult. They have different learning processes. So how have you been able to grapple with the challenges? That's one on the side. I'm trying to like ask like different questions, but I know that you can help us unbundle them in one breath. So how have you been able to grapple with all of the challenges with regards to technology, with regards to data issues and the epileptic power supply in Nigeria and all? And then even with these children who are not tech savvy, having to patiently deal with the pace at which the individual child can learn.
Interestingly, our children are more tech savvy than we are. Have you seen a young child take your phone? They don't ask you for how to navigate. They can find. I have a 2-year-old nephew who just flips. He will tell you when it's time for you to skip ad.
Okay.
So they know. However, the people who struggled the most were the adults. In embracing, most people had to reskill, most people had to upskill. But as a school, it was a very interesting one for us, because you see, when it comes to these things, and you did mention the problems that people encountered, access to devices, data, and it wasn't just it wasn't only private schools that experienced it. It was very prevalent in public schools as well. But as a school, what we did was to ensure, so our students write some of their assessments. We have a learning management system, which is like a school portal. It's like a mini website where you go in, single thing concerning the children can be done there. Children can take, and during COVID, the lockdown, that was where we had live classes. So we had something called synchronous and asynchronous. So sometimes they have live classes, sometimes they watch uploaded videos, because you see, we needed to balance that because of data. Not everybody would have access to data. Even if they do have access to data, what happens to power? And sometimes the data is not too good. You will see them telling you no, the connectivity is really low. So they have opportunities to watch videos, and that was our it was a steep learning curve for teachers, but I mean, they had to catch on. It was either you step up, or you have to find another career. And then which other career are you really going to look for that is not using technology? So it was huge, steep learning curve, but everybody caught on pretty fast. And that was something we did. And you know, the interesting thing about this conversation is that I've heard someone say, oh, thank God COVID is gone. And I'm laughing that the disruption literally has turned everything upside down.
Exactly.
The robots are here. AI is here. Information technology. You find out even in schools, there's really no point in you having 6 or 7 people in your admin department when an app, a software is able to do what 3 or 4 people can do. So what is happening with everybody, and what I keep saying to everyone is, you need to collaborate with technology.
Okay.
Because the truth about it is that technology can do a lot of things, but it really doesn't have emotions. So for some time, you will still have teachers in the classrooms because the teacher can tell if Shade isn't feeling too well. A robot might not be able to say that. So how can you now do that? But then you still have to have smart boards, interactive boards in your classrooms, bringing technology into the place. You can't sit down and say you do not know how to do it, how to use it. So embracing it, collaborating with technology is the way to go right now, you know.
Okay. All right, great. Even as our time is fast spent, now let's talk about performance management, which we know that is not the same thing as evaluation or evaluation rather. So now we know that performance management goes way beyond evaluation or appraisal, either end of year or end of session appraisal and all. So kindly tell us how, or share with us the mechanisms that you use or you put in place with regards to performance management. What process do you use that works for you, both for the staff and for the children? So
for us as a school, we do not wait till the end of the term.
Okay.
Performance management, managing the performance of anyone in our school, be you students or staff, is continuous. We literally have weekly assessments. We have assessments of learning, assessments for learning. There's an assessment that goes on as the teacher is teaching.
Okay.
Very informal in nature, that the child isn't even aware, because the moment a child is aware that they're being evaluated, they put up a show. I don't want that.
Okay.
So the very first thing is to even demystify assessments or exams or take-home assignments and all. So those things are continuous in nature. Likewise for staff as well. You know to stop your boss, to know to stop your line manager. How am I doing? What can I do? How can I improve? We ensure that our environment is enabling enough that they can ask, that we can get feedback.
Okay.
Once I know, you can speak with me, I can speak with you, I can stop, I can come into your classroom. Your line manager may be in your classroom, not to disturb, but just to see. I'm not going to stop you when you're teaching, because that is very disruptive. But immediately after that, what did you think about that? We can do this, you know, just regular, because the truth about it is very dangerous to wait till midterm or end of term. Things can go wrong. Once you're doing it continuously, weekly, we even have something for our students called, it's a support program, some form of intervention. Because the truth is, children are learning different skills on a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis. So the teacher knows to be very observant. When you're teaching, there's a particular skill I don't think this child has caught on yet. Automatically you are down for, on Fridays we put something in place for a support program. Students, as they stay back for like 2 or 3 hours, typically what you would call a lesson at home. Because why pay school fees, why pay so much and then your child isn't doing well? So for us, even as a school, it's not at an extra cost. No. The teachers do that. They ensure that the children learn. And if you do insist that you want to have a lesson teacher for your child at home, please walk into the school, because what happens with most schools is that the child comes into school and is having to unlearn. Many times that there's an issue, check it. Child has somebody teaching.
A different teacher. Okay, great. It's been a wonderful time having this discussion with you. Like, we could just go on and on and on. Thank you so much for your time with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, viewers, we've been chatting with Mrs. Oladipo Oluwatosin. She is the head of schools at Safehands School. It's been a wonderful time here on The Conversation. Now we'll go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll head straight to discuss something else, another issue for the day. You don't want to miss this part. Join us again.